Welcome to Grandeur Decoded, where we break down the iconic structures and audacious ideas that prove just how far human ingenuity can go. Today, we're heading deep into the mountains of China, into a canyon so steep and so remote that for decades it acted like a wall between two sides of the same province. This place has challenged transportation planners, exhaustingly long detours, and some of the toughest terrain in Asia. And yet, cutting straight across that gorge now sits one of the most astonishing bridges ever built, the Huajiang Grand Canyon Bridge. This isn't just a big bridge or a high bridge. It's a 625-meter tall line of steel stretched above a canyon so deep that clouds sink into it. The scale is so extreme that even seasoned engineers have described the site as one of the most demanding environments they've ever worked in. But this bridge didn't just connect two cliffs, it redefined what connection even looks like in terrain like this. These are the 10 decoded facts you need to know about the Huajiang Grand Canyon Bridge. First, you need to understand why this canyon was such a problem. Guizhou province has some of the most dramatic topography in China. Sheer limestone walls, narrow ravines, and deep karst valleys carved over millions of years. Huajiang Canyon is one of the toughest of them all, a steep V-shaped cut that drops hundreds of meters almost vertically. Before the bridge, traveling from one rim to the other meant descending winding mountain roads that clung to the cliffs, crawling along tight switchbacks, and then climbing back up the other side. A drive of about 2 hours was completely normal. Rain, fog, and low visibility could stretch that even longer. The result was a canyon that didn't just slow travel, it shaped daily life. Villages and towns that were only a few kilometers apart, as the crow flies, were practically worlds away by roads. Second, the height of this bridge puts it into a category almost no structure reaches. The deck stands around 625 meters, about 2,050 feet, above the river below, making it one of the highest bridges in the world by deck height. This isn't measured from a tower top or from a decorative arch. This is the vertical distance from the driving surface to the bottom of the canyon. For comparison, the Empire State Building is roughly 381 meters tall to its roof. You could stack it under this bridge and still have room. At this altitude, the topography creates surreal scenes. On some mornings, the canyon fills with fog, leaving the bridge floating above a blanket of clouds. But this extreme height wasn't chosen to impress. It was the only way to build an expressway that stayed level instead of plunging into the landscape. Third, the bridge opened on September 28, 2025, after more than 3 years of construction. This project is part of the S57 Liuji-Anlong Expressway, a major infrastructure development meant to connect western Guizhou to broader regional and national networks. And from the moment it opened, it changed everything. What was once a 2-hour descent, crossing, and ascent now takes about 2 minutes on the expressway. Think about that for a moment. The canyon that shaped travel patterns for generations simply stopped being an obstacle. For local communities, this wasn't just a faster commute. It was access to new markets, new jobs, new tourism opportunities, and new social connections. The kind of change that can take a region from isolated to integrated almost overnight. Fourth, the dimensions of this structure are staggering. The bridge spans about 2,890 meters in total length, almost 3 kilometers, with a main suspension span of roughly 1,420 meters across the heart of the canyon. That central span is carried by 2 massive towers, one rising to about 262 meters, the other around 205 meters. These towers anchor the suspension system that holds the deck steady across a void so wide it distorts your sense of scale. Every section of steel, every cable, every panel was designed for the reality of this location: extreme height, heavy wind loads, changing temperatures, and the need for absolute structural reliability. Bridges of this size exist, but bridges of this size at this height are exceptionally rare. Fifth, the engineers had to design the entire structure to withstand the canyon's unpredictable wind behavior. At more than 600 meters above the river, wind does not act the way it does at typical bridge heights. The canyon funnels air currents, accelerating them and redirecting them in ways that can be violent and erratic. Crosswinds hit the deck with lateral force, Updrafts push from below, and temperature differences between the canyon and the ridge can shift airflow in minutes. To counter this, the bridge deck uses an aerodynamic shape that helps reduce drag and control vibrations. The suspension cables, made from high-strength steel strands, maintain tension even when wind loads spike, and the anchor points were placed only into rock formations verified to be stable, which is crucial because the suspension system has to transfer enormous forces into the ground. This is a bridge that had to be engineered not just for gravity, but for air. Sixth, building the bridge demanded construction methods tailored to one of the deepest canyons in Asia. You can't build upward from the canyon floor when the canyon floor is extremely far below and difficult to access. That meant traditional scaffolding was impossible. Instead, engineers used high-altitude lifting systems strung between the two sides of the canyon to position major components. Steel deck segments were prefabricated, transported to the edge, lifted hundreds of meters into the air, and secured to the suspension system with meticulous precision. Workers operated from suspended platforms and temporary access structures designed to provide safe footholds at extreme heights. It's one thing to design a structure like this on paper. It's another to assemble it in the sky, with nothing beneath you but air and the distant river below. Seventh, the geology of Guizhou shaped the entire engineering strategy. This region is defined by karst limestone, rock that erodes into caves, sinkholes, and unpredictable underground voids that makes it beautiful but challenging for large infrastructure. Before construction began, engineers performed detailed geological surveys to confirm where solid load-bearing rock existed. In karst terrain, anchoring a suspension bridge into the wrong spot can be catastrophic because what looks like a solid cliff may hide empty chambers beneath. Only after identifying stable, reliable rock layers did crews begin drilling and building the anchor foundations. The stability of the entire structure depends on those anchor points gripping the canyon's rim in exactly the right places. Eighth, the opening of the bridge created immediate economic momentum. Guizhou has historically been one of China's less accessible provinces due to its terrain. Steep mountains and narrow valleys make travel slow and expensive. The S57 expressway, with the Huajiang Bridge as its signature structure, has already begun reshaping transportation patterns. Faster travel means lower logistics costs for businesses, easier access for tourists, and new opportunities for towns that were once bypassed scenic platforms and viewing areas near the bridge have also turned it into a destination on its own. A structure of this scale doesn't just serve travelers, it becomes an economic engine pulling activity toward it. Ninth, the bridge incorporates modern structural monitoring systems to ensure long-term safety. Embedded sensors measure temperature shifts, wind pressure, cable behavior, and deck movement. Some sensors use fiber optic technology to detect changes in tension along the cables. This constant flow of information helps engineers understand how the bridge performs under real-world conditions, heavy traffic, strong storms, seasonal temperature changes, and allows maintenance teams to catch any issues before they become problems. A bridge at this height, in this environment, must be observed continuously. And this one is built to communicate what it's feeling every day. 10th, the Huajiang Grand Canyon Bridge represents the cutting edge of what's possible in bridge engineering. A canyon that once dictated travel for generations no longer holds that power. A journey that consumed hours is now measured in seconds. The bridge stands as a demonstration of modern capability, the ability to connect landscapes once considered unreachable. But more importantly, it shows the profound impact infrastructure can have on people's daily lives. What was once a remote stretch of mountains is now part of an accessible, integrated corridor. The Huajiang Bridge doesn't just span a canyon, it spans eras. It's the difference between a region shaped by its obstacles and a region shaped by its opportunities. If you want more deep dives into the structures, strategies, and feats of human brilliance that define our world, you're in the right place. This is Grandeur Decoded, where we reveal how the extraordinary gets built. And trust me, the next story is just as bold.